to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Dash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is a part 2, Watch the Devil Work. I'm joined with the elders Sha'ar, Bunsapad, and Amathi Salaka. I had a brain fart for a minute. And pretty much, we're going to go visit a brother, so we're on the road, so wanted to do like a live. I did something earlier called Watch the Devil Work, how Esau, the American army, pretty much went and bombed Venezuela and captured the leader of Venezuela, which is Nicolas Maduro, and his wife. And pretty much they're saying that they're up in there because they want, to help fix the broken infrastructure of the oil. They're going to send American oil companies, not Venezuelan oil companies, to fix the problem or whatever. They're going to pour billions of dollars into it, and they're going to make the people there a lot of money. No, you're going to make the small hats a lot of money. And pretty much, a matter of fact, can we start off with, unless you got something, we could start off with Revelation 6 and 3. The reason why they're down there is for the resources. We've been going through Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, a lot, because this is the time that we're in. Now, no other nation fits what America's doing. You've had skirmishes and, takeovers and colonizations, but not like Esau, not like the so-called white man has colonized the world. And America right now has control of the whole entire planet. They have, I was watching the elder Yakanan earlier. They have over 850, U.S. bases in 90 countries, I believe it was. But really unofficially it's like 900, and then really super unofficially it's 1,000 plus, because they have 900, about 100 that's a clandestine, but then they have another 100 that's really like deep underground, that not many people know about. So altogether, this devil could have more than 1,000 military bases around the world. And the reason why he's there is because it's easy access to get. Matter of fact, get the one. Well, we got to go to Habakkuk 2. So we get that one, and we go to Habakkuk 2, because the scriptures say, "Neither keepeth at home." He enlarges his desire more than hell. He cannot be satisfied. And what you have to understand, that the insatiable greed of the small hats is what's going to cause their destructions. Right. According to their substance shall the restitution be. Now we know that the scriptures say that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof, if not, where who is he? So when the earth was given into their hand, it was given to them as a possession. And we're going to go back, Lord's will, to the blessing that Isaac put upon him, that by his sword he shall live, and pretty much gain the fatness of the earth through that. And what does that represent? That represents their military. And this is how Esau has pretty much conquered the world. He's colonized the world, conquered the world, put the nations in subjection, and taken their resources. This is why they set up the U.S. dollar as a Federal Reserve currency, and then it became the world reserve currency, which everyone wanted to get a part of it because it was a new thing. It was stable, this, that, and the other, but that was just to draw them in. And eventually they will lead them into some serious debts to what we see today. And this is why a lot of these nations are faltering on their debts, and they're having to give up land, having to give up resources. And eventually, when you have nothing else to give, what do you have to give? Yourself as a slave, to be able to pay off that debt. But let's start off with the scripture you got.
Come on. This is
Revelation. And if y'all brothers got any scriptures or points y'all want to bring out, except for you, brother, you can bring out points, but you can't read nothing. You got it.
This is Revelation chapter 6, verse 3. And it reads, "And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red."
Now, horse represents power. The reason why it said it was red, just like the dragon was red, is because it represents a nation of people. The nation of people identified in the scriptures as the red people are the Edomites. When you look at the name Esau, right, the name Esau, which is the progenitor of the Edomites, goes to the Hebrew word Ishashwa. When you look it up in the Hebrew, it says Ishar. But it goes back to the word Aishashwa. Aishash means wasted, and the wa at the end makes it he, possessive. So Aishashwa, he wasted, or wasted away is he, because they didn't have the pigment that Jacob had. The son Jacob came out regular, Esau came out looking different. Later on in life, his name was changed to Edom. The name Edom goes back to the Hebrew word Adawam, which means red. And they are the red people. And they are the people that were set up for destruction. And they are the people that through the power given to them, through their military, have conquered the whole entire planet. So you got it, bro.
Come. This is verse, continuing on in verse 4. It says, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword.
Right, and power, read that again. Power was given unto him. It
says, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth.
And that's what they've done. Because since America's been, an empire, they have been at war damn near as as many years as they've been empire, or they've been a country. Ever since the Edomites, the so-called white man, took over this country, America, they've been at war damn near every year since they took over.
Yep.
They're a war-mongering people.
Right.
You want to say something?
Yeah. There's something that stood out when you was going into his name, wasted away is he. And Malachi 1 comes to mind when it goes in there, when it mentions his habitation being waste, that's going ultimately into him going into captivity before. But what comes to mind is that word waste, that's his word with Esau, like an omen, that just came to mind when you read that in Malachi 1 and 3.
Well, they are the people of the Most High's curse. They are the accursed people.
That's
and
right.
Something that's accursed is something that's set aside for judgment. That's right. Why the Lord said, what if the Most High, willing to show his power, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction?
There you go.
Because they were crafted, they were tailor-made for this destruction. And this is why they've been programmed to do what they do. Because the Lord is a just power. So they have to be wicked. They have to do the things that they're doing. They have to murder. They have to rob in order for judgment to be brought upon them. And we're at the point now where the right hand of the Lord is bringing the final sentence on this devil and telling him what his judgment is going to be. When Yahushua comes back, he's going to be the one to bring the judgment. You got it, bro.
Come. Continuing on in verse 5. You want me to keep going to verse 4?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. It says, and that they should kill one another.
And that there goes your civil war.
Right.
And they've been civil wars in America. And they're at the point now where people are so desperate that they're going to turn against their government officials, pursuant to prophecy. Because the people are desperate. The people are not, getting a fair shake or a fair deal in anything. They're suffering. They're the ones that toil and that labor. That's why it says that every hand, the fullness of its sufficiency, meaning they got every. Oh, you got it?
God,
bring it out.
This is Job chapter 20, verse 22. And it says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him.
Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. Now, if you have an individual like the IUIC that reads that, they'll say, well, that's talking about Esau coming against Esau. But you have to go to the Hebrew. Just like we were just watching the Elder Yakanan, right? Reacting to a video that Elder Pastor Hart did where Bishop Nathaniel said that the latest himself with thick clay is talking about the other nations, coming together with Esau, something along those lines, and said that's totally off. That was never broken down like that at the old school. It was always taught that the latest himself with thick clay was the Esau likes to be around other Edomites because, the clay is red and so is Esau, But that nonsense that he brought out was nasty work. Now when you look in that word thick clay, it goes into the Hebrew word ibat yat, which means heavy debts. And those heavy debts have been accumulated on these nations by the US dollar, which became the world reserve currency that everyone had to attach their currency to. And at first it was lovely, they were doing good. But eventually what happened, America, Esau, pulled the rug from under them, and now they've fallen into the trap of debt through what's called interest, or the scriptures call usury. You got it. You want to say something, buddy?
All right. Continuing on in the last verse, final part of it, it says, and there was given unto him a great sword. And that's back in Revelation 6 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Right. That great sword goes back. We got to get that. Somebody could get that in Genesis 27:38. You know, that great sword is a blessing that was given to him, because first he gave up his birthright, then he gave up his inheritance, pretty much. You know, so pretty much he was left with nothing. Right. So what happened was, when Isaac gave him that blessing of the sword, he said that you will have the fatness of the earth, and by thy sword shalt thou live. And that doesn't fit anybody else but Esau. Now, when you go back to Cain, right? Cain's descendant, one of his descendants, well, the name Cain itself, it means a weapon or stabbing weapon, right? Kwayan. Now, when you go back to one of their descendants, Tubal Cain, that means traveling weapon. That's where you get the term mercenaries from, which are swords or guns for hire. And that's how Esau has lived, you know, his life is taking countries down, taking empires down, or taking not so much as empires, but taking countries down and different, you know, peoples out there by the force of the sword, under the pretense of helping them out. That's why I said the nations have drunken of the wine, and therefore the nations are mad.
That's
you got it. You want to say something?
That's why when you read it in Job 9 and 24, there's a question that's asked, and it's more of a rhetorical question. But it says the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He covered the face of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So you have a rhetorical question that's being asked, because if you have a spiritual eye to see, you can clearly see that Esau is the so-called white man. Just by the way he's going around and taking the earth, the way he rapes, just to use that word, robs and steals. He's all over the place, you know?
And so he doesn't think he has to pay for them. You got it.
That's right. And that's just the indicator to show forth who he is. The Bible gave us plenty of clues. If you look through the lens of prophecy, you can be able to see these things.
That's the lens of looking through the lens of prophecy.
He left a mark upon him.
That's right.
The leprosy.
There you go.
This vagabond, he all over the goddamn place.
That's right.
Everything points to this man being the devil. You know, and that's why the scriptures are the measuring stick to what's going on in the world, and who is who. Because when this devil took over, he changed the names of countries, changed the names of lands, he changed the names of people. This is why you have such a mix-up. But all of the people you see on the earth, no matter what language they speak, no matter what they call themselves, no matter what region of the world they are in, all go back to Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But the problem is, and then those three men, Shem, Shem, and Japheth, their descendants, their names are written in Genesis the 10th chapter, which the so-called scholars call the Table of Nations. These nations still exist today. The problem is no one can identify them because they're called by different names.
That's right.
You know? But at the end of the day, this is why the Lord said he's going to pull the veil that has been spread upon all these nations.
That's right.
You want to say something?
No, you got it, Apostle.
Yeah, we almost here, so
I know you in the Genesis and Habakkuk pulled up.
Right. Yeah, because you just got to run that up to the brother.
Yeah, I just got to just run it up.
Okay, all right. So we'll keep it going. Get that in Genesis. Did it say more? Or did it end in Revelation 6 where it said, and by that sword shalt thou live?
That was the last part of that verse.
Okay, cool.
This is Genesis 27 and 38.
Now this goes back to the blessing that was given to Esau. First he gave up his birthright, then the blessing was taken from him, which the blessing included what? The inheritance.
That's right.
Go ahead.
And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
Yeah.
And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven. Now, when you look at the scheme of things, who is the one that's living well? You look at Jake. Jake is living in the hood, in the ghetto, right? In the barrios, just favelas. Anywhere you see a rundown part of the world or part of a city or town, you see Jake there. You know, but then when you get past a certain street, you start seeing a change. You start seeing everything is clean. You start seeing more trees. You start seeing nice homes, you know, manicured lawns, you know, the best of the best. That's Esau. That's his blessing.
And this is why they've conquered. They didn't get the world because the world was given to them. They were so benevolent that they worked hard for it, and eventually they got it. You know, and you know, the people were so gracious because, you know, the Edomites helped them so much that they gave them portions of land. No, they took their shit by force. You know, and this goes back to prophecy. That's why prophecy is what, you know, what is the measuring stick to what's going on today in the world. But it got individuals that try to get away from that. But when the small hats say that Amalek is around, the Palestinians are Amalek, these people are Amalek, America's Edom, then the Edomites are still here. But when we say it, no, the Edomites are done away with. Without no proof. You go ahead.
Khan, verse 40. It says, and by the sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion.
That's it.
Thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
Right, so by thy sword shalt thou live, and that's how they've been living. By the sword. This is why you have America, which has the greatest military, has over 850, you know, military bases around the world.
Yep.
Nobody has that. China doesn't have that. Russia doesn't have that. China and Russia have the most people. I'm sorry, China and India have the most people. But China and India do not have bases all over the planet.
Right.
They're not policing the planet like America is. They're in different countries, you know, trading with different countries, establishing certain things in their countries, but they're not going around the whole world like America is, taking people's resources.
Right.
That's right.
You know, under the pretense of helping them.
That's right. That's right. You know what, Apostle?
Yes, sir.
One of the reasons why they go into these places, well, I'd rather say one of the main resources that they're taking when they go is the oil.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you read this, what we just read here in Genesis 27, it said that his dwelling would be the fatness of the earth.
Right.
But one of the definitions of fatness, when you break this word down in the Hebrew, it literally goes to oil.
Oil, yep.
Right.
You know, so wherever their oil is, that's where Esau is trying to occupy and attain.
Yeah, because that's what resources run the world, not talk. You know, resources are what runs the world. You know, they're down in Venezuela, not just for the oil. The oil is part of it. The pretense is that this Maduro, he's a dictator. We got to get him out of there. He's a tyrannical dictator. He's not doing well for his people. You know, even the vice president of Venezuela wants us to, you know, come in there and you know, and help them out. And pretty much the vice president said, no, we want them to return Maduro and his wife.
Right.
That was illegal what they did. And it goes against, you know, international law.
Right.
You know, y'all want to say something?
Man, it's wicked as hell.
Hell yeah.
Because you know that oil company, Halliburton gonna be down there siphoning out that shit.
You know that.
Yep.
You know, and then that money, that kickback is gonna go back to what? To the small hats.
Mm-hmm.
Then they got a big, large gold reserve down there. You know,
Right.
they said it was estimated at $512 billion, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so just imagine if the price of gold keeps going up, that could double.
Yeah.
They ain't not gonna get that. So we're so benevolent. We're gonna go down there. We're gonna help them fix the infrastructure of the oil, and then once we finish fixing the infrastructure of the oil, we're gonna leave the country and let the people take care of, you know, themselves. You know, we just want to help.
Right.
And yeah, we know they have a big reserve of gold, but we're not gonna touch it. Bullshit. They're going down there to take all of that shit.
That's right.
Because Venezuela has the largest oil reserve in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You got, and they have a large amount of oil and gold and natural resources. Matter of fact, it was that elder, the coming up and coming elder Yashalam from the New York camp that sent me that scripture. I thought it was him, but I had lost a track of my train of thought at the time. But it was in the book of Deuteronomy 33, where it speaks about ashes, you know, walking on oil or something along those lines, the oil being under their feet. That's, you know, ashes. The Venezuelans, Peruvians, Bolivians, Brazil, you know. But you got it, bro.
This is Psalms 55:21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
Right, because they're going to have you under the impression that they're there to help, but really those are all lies. It's just they're going to say what they need to say to get in there, and once they get in there, you know, that's it. They're going to take over, and they're going to make your life miserable.
Sweet lies, beautiful lies.
Yep. And that's what America does.
Right.
All right.
Got the Habakkuk
Okay, bring it up.
with NLT.
Yeah, sure.
Habakkuk 2 and 5 in NLT. Wealth is treacherous, and the arrogant are never at rest. They open their mouths as wide as the grave, and like death, they are never satisfied. In their greed, they have gathered up many nations and swallowed many peoples.
Right, and that's what happened. They agreed. They have gathered many nations and swallowed up many people. You know, if scriptures speak about, you know, the King James says they can never have enough. They're insatiable. You know, there's no amount of money, because whatever is in the world, they want it all. The scriptures don't lie when it said that when Isaac told him, "By thy sword shalt thou live, and you shall have the fatness of the earth." You know, they want everything, every last bit of everything that's out there. They want it all, including control over the people, control over their resources, control over their land, control over their government. That's why they want to bring in the so-called New World Order. It's a complete hostile takeover, but it's done strategically, but now, before it was, you know, more clandestine. Now they're just out in the open with it, because pretty much the small heads already got the world. So there's no need for all that secrecy anymore. Look, we're going in there, we're going to take the oil, we're going to take them over. They're just blatant with it. And that's why the scriptures say, you know, because they're breaking international law. That's why the scriptures say that, you know, their look was more stout than their fellows. And that's why these so-called European nations look down on Esau, because Esau, you know, is not working for their benefit. And every time America makes a move, it affects their so-called European allies.
Right.
Like when they put the what was that? Was it tariffs on Russia? It didn't affect America that much. It affected mostly all them so-called European nations. And they said, damn, every time these motherfuckers get into some shit, it's really affecting us.
Mother Nature tired of this devil, man. They tired of their brother. They all Edomites and shit.
That's it.
That's right.
You got something?
This is Sirach 12 and 17. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee.
Yep. Is it going to say as a looking glass?
Oh yeah, it's on up here. This is
yeah, because he's gonna undermine. He's gonna act like he's helping, but he's really undermining you, because what he wants to do is he wants to get in there, get control of the assets, get control of the resources, and then, you know, then bounce, and then you're left with nothing.
Bones and ashes.
That's it. All you left with is just a promise that they said, or the hope that they were gonna keep their word.
right.
All you gotta do is ask God if these devils keep their word. The devil didn't keep their word, and they're not gonna keep their word.
Right.
But these people never learn. But now it's to the point where Esau don't give a shit. They're just going in and just gangstering shit. Straight up. They're not asking for it. They're not, you know, voting for it. They're just gangstering it.
Yep.
No, all right.
The Sirach 12 and 10. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him.
Right, because he's saying that they're there, you know, they're going to make the people a lot of money. We're going to make them a lot of money. Yeah, right. Go ahead.
And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass.
Meaning, keep an eye on that devil. Don't let him out of your sight. You let him out of your sight, he going to stick you when you're looking at him. He going to stick you when you ain't looking at him.
Right.
So it's better that you see it coming.
Right.
You know, at least you can brace for it.
Right.
God damn.
And thou shalt know that his rust has not altogether wiped away.
Yeah, and that's why it says that the rust. Matter of fact, somebody could get that too. James 5. We could roll. And do you got to get gas?
No.
Okay, because when you get a chance, we can stop at the gas station.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. You ready for it?
Yes, sir. Oh, what that was that it, Bun? You had something?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, let's go.
All right. This is James chapter 5. I'm gonna start from the top. It's cool.
Yeah, because he said,
23.
yeah, sir, because it said that you know, you shall be unto him as if you looked at a looking glass, and you see that his rust has not altogether been wiped away. Because one thing about rust is a demon. Because rust, well, you can polish it, you can paint it or whatever, but it's always gonna come through, because it's like a plague.
Right.
It's strong too.
Yeah. So Esau is a plague. Esau is a plague. He is a rusty plague. He is a parasite. He is a insatiable parasite that you can't get rid of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is why Yahushua, the first people he's coming to visit are the Edomites.
Yeah.
Who is this that coming from Edom with dyed garments?
Right.
From Basra. Because Yahushua is the only one that can take them down. They said no man was able to make war with the beast. But then it said nothing about, the Lord not being able to take them down or make war with them. It says in righteousness does he judge and make war. So Yahushua is coming to kick ass.
That's right.
As they say, kick ass to both timberlands turn shit a. Go ahead.
This is James chapter 5, verse 1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl.
Matter of fact, can you read that in the NLT? I'm just curious as to what that says in the NLT. That part right there.
God, I got you. James 5 and 1 in the NLT.
Mm-hmm.
Look here, you rich people. Weep and groan with anguish because of all the terrible troubles ahead of you.
Yeah, so pretty much look, this is what's coming for your ass. Be on the lookout for it. All the miseries that's going to come upon you. Because you've been put in a position to where you're living lovely. You don't have a want for nothing. You ain't catching hell in no form, shape, or manner. You're the ones given hell. But then you're on the other hand, you're trying to act like you're this benevolent individual that's helping people. You're not. You're the goddamn devil. You're a plague. But you're a necessary plague because the Lord said, you got to be here. This is why the Lord said, what if the Most High, willing to show his wrath, suffered with much long suffering, the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. Because, the Lord can't move on you until everything in the scriptures and prophecy is fulfilled. Then it's time to move to the next phase. And when it moves to the next phase, that's where the Lord ain't going to withdraw his hand. Because you beat the people down with a continuous stroke. When you cease to spoil, you're going to be spoiled. When you cease to oppress, you're going to be oppressed. Sorry, go ahead.
This is verse 2 in James 5 in the NLT. Your wealth is rotting away. And that's that deterioration that you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Your wealth is rotting away, and your fine clothes are moth-eaten rags.
Right, and now that fine clothes right there, right, that goes back into the rich man who is fared sumptuously every day. Then when you go to Jeremiah, I believe it's 51, it speaks about Shishak, right, which is Shishak is another name for Babylon, which is America. And when you look at the word Shishak, it goes into the word fine linen. And you fared sumptuously. You live like a queen. You've been untouched. You go to Revelation 18 chapter. It speaks about your dainties. It speaks about the goodly, I think it is. The word is there. The other word, goodly. When you look up that word, goodly is lampros, which means luxury or luxurious ways of living. And how did you get that? By robbing the whole world. But y'all got it. I'll be right back.
Yeah, God. This is verse 3, and it says, your gold and your silver became worthless. The very wealth the very wealth you were counting on will eat away your flesh like fire. This treasure you have accumulated will stand as evidence against you in the day of judgment. And again, going into it, when you go into the definition of Esau's name, meaning wasted away is he, which we know that's tied to his pigment. But, spiritually, that also goes into how he's going to be, dealt with by the Lord. His demise. You look at Babylon, a nation that he had set up. In the 50s, it had its own time, the happy days and everything. And since then, it's been falling and failing.
Right.
All right. Every president that we've had has been some type of Masonic, occultistic, organization. All right. Now you have the dang Epstein files that's being revealed with all that black highlighted off of there, knowing damn well Trump nasty ass was involved. And these are just examples to show forth that Esau's power is waning. All right, and the apostle quoted it earlier in Isaiah 25th chapter. All right, that the nations will eventually see that Esau is a piece of shit. That's why it's worded in Isaiah 25 that veil is going to be lifted. You clearly see that veil being lifted, especially when it comes to the small hats. Even other Edomites can't stop talking about the small hats.
Right.
Which it was quoted early in Revelation 6 that they was going to fight against each other. So that's even going into that as well.
Yep.
Brothers hats.
No, that's like I said, that's going to that tongue falling upon himself.
Right.
You know, that's Psalm 64. And, you know, also 2 Thessalonians, if I can get it out here, is 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 7 is for the mystery of iniquity do already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out the way. And like I said, that's why Esau's his rulership is waning, because it's getting to a point, as we see through the prophecies, where we're at in measuring the time diligently in itself, that it's time for Esau. His time is almost up.
Yeah.
You know, it tells you that in Job, you know, he got a bounds that he cannot pass, and we're getting to that point where he's gonna end up being removed. You know, the Lord says he's gonna come and take back the kingdom, and now the things that we're seeing what Esau's doing now. He's doing like setting up for his big hoorah. That's why he's, like you say, in Venezuela. He's over in Africa trying to take all these oil and gold deposits. You know, the Lord is actually showing all these different, like I said, the gold deposits. You know, he's showing that in the world, but he's showing that Esau's going to try to keep up everything to himself.
You mentioned Venezuela. One of the reasons we're going there is for oil's sake.
Right.
You know, we read in Genesis 27 that he's about the fatness of the earth, and it goes down to oil. So wherever oil and riches is and such like that,
Esau will be there.
You know, hey, when he first came over here to the Americas, the first place he stopped at was the Caribbean in Puerto Rico, which is called the Door of Riches. You know, I forgot the original. Well, there's like an original name that it had before Esau got here.
Borican.
And what does that mean again, Apostle?
It means land of the Lords.
Land of the Lords, the water.
And then you have, that's where you got the term Boricua.
Okay.
Boricua is Lords.
Oh, okay.
Got you. And as you see things wane, and as we're going into this verse, and as we read that in James, all right, it's clear and it's evident that this devil is getting ready to be out of the picture. You know, he's rusty as hell, and what rust does, as brothers went into, is it exposes faultiness of some type of metal. Like he said, it's like a plague. Once it's there, there's really no getting rid of it. You can scrub and hide it, but eventually it's going to come back, especially if it's not treated properly. You know, and Esau's a devil. He damn sure don't treat nothing properly, so eventually he's going to be exposed. Even how much you can try to hide it, he's still going to reveal himself who he is.
That's crazy. You know? Like that Apostle said, how you rich, but then putting L on people.
Crazy.
You got everything this kid is. Got everything you want in the world, man. Like this motherfucker just, he's an insatiable, evil ass person.
That's right. And can't stop, won't stop.
Oh man.
God damn, non-stop on the block.
Because he can't rest unless he do some mischievous shit.
Yeah, that's it. You know, they're just evil like that. You know, like Jake do shit, and you know, eventually their conscience eat them. You know, Esau, their conscience eat them if they don't do some kind of mischief on people. But that's that demonic spirit. Remember, it said 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. You know, you have the one that's righteous, and you have the one that's wicked. Even Jake, in their most wicked, you know, ways, are more righteous than Esau. They're more righteous than the most righteous Edomite. And that don't even sound right.
Straight up.
Ain't no such thing as a righteous Edomite. You got it, bro.
Did you have a point behind you was going?
Now, real quick, James 2:6 in NLT. But you dishonored the poor. Isn't it the rich who oppress you and drag you into court?
Woo! And that goes.
People, you got money, then you go to these countries, you don't abide by their rules. Now they go drag you in court, and before you know, missiles coming behind that shit.
But that's how the devil does it. You know, he sticks it to you. Then like the scriptures say, what is that in the Apocrypha? A rich man does wrong. And he still, you know, he still boasts, is proud about it or something like that. And then the poor is done wrong, and yet he has to entreat. You know, it's in the Apocrypha somewhere. So basically, when these devils, the rich, they'll do wicked shit, but then they'll still talk shit. Then the poor, they're done wrong, and then they still have to act as if, almost like they gotta apologize for somebody doing wrong to them. You know?
Boy.
You got it.
God, I got a precept right here.
Bring it out.
We read James 5 earlier, going into how their gold and silver is cankered, garments moth-eaten, and it goes into how it's going to be a witness to them in the day of destruction, which is the time that we're closely approaching.
That's it.
So I got this in 1 John 2:18, and it says, little children, it is the last time. And when it says time, he's literally going into the time that we're in. Like he's saying we're in the last age of, Esau's rulership. All right. It says, and as ye have heard that anti-Messiah shall come. All right, and ultimately, you know, we know so-called Christians are anti-Messiah. Everybody that's against Yahweh's reign, all right, his authority is anti-Messiah. So why not apply that with Esau, Edom? You know, this man has set up the earth completely opposite of what Yahweh stood for, which is why when you read it in Revelation 11, it talks about the place that's spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. All right, so that's anti-Messiah, if you ask me. You know, that's anti-Messiah.
No, it is. It's nasty work.
It's nasty work. That's right. And it says, and as you have heard that anti-Messiah shall come, even now are there many anti-Messiahs.
Right.
All right, and that goes into the whole so-called Christians doctrine. They'll talk about this one being, the Antichrist. It's not what it's talking about. No. All right, here at the very end, and the Apostle John is telling us right here, in this last time, you would have a whole slither of anti-Messiahs walking around. All right, and you see it. Everything that you look at, in whether it's TV, whether it's outside, conversation with everybody out here, it's against the Heavenly Father's ways.
Yeah.
You know, and it's puts very highly, and again, you can thank Edomite supremacy for that. You know, it says, even now are there many anti-Messiahs, whereby we know that it is the last time. So what he's saying is clearly we know it's the last time based on this. Yeah. You know, 2 Ezra 6, another scripture that comes to mind. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. That's why if you're spiritually sound, you'll be able to know these things.
That's why you have to follow the footprints of prophecy.
That's right.
That's another series.
Right.
Follow the footprints of prophecy. What's that?
In the page, GMS, follow footprints of prophecy. That's another page.
That's a page. That's a good page name.
Yeah, because that's gonna the footprints of prophecy is gonna dictate what times we're living in. When the scriptures say measured out the times diligently, what do you think that means? You know, you got to look at what the scriptures say. You got to look at the world and see what is happening in the world that is speaking or saying the things that the scriptures are saying, so that we can know what times we're living in.
Right. That's right.
You got it.
Beautiful. That was it on this precept.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
No, that was it.
That's it. You got anything else, brother? You can't read no scriptures. You driving.
Jake's
all right.
with his knees.
Con. So with that, you know, we pray that you brothers and sisters have been edified. Till the next time we say, Shalom.
Shalom.
They help us in